Hello and welcome to Trentham Gardens on the outskirts of Stoke-on-Trent. Today the Tour of Britain breaches the halfway point and Mark Cavendish has suddenly found himself in the race lead. But here's the question, and it's not a particularly complex one: for how much longer? Atrocious weather almost all day as the peloton, wrapped up for the worst, got exactly what they prepared for: a deluge. 6 men got away with the almost entirely unsurprising news that Christian House was among them. That's 3 breakaways in 4 stages. He rode out every KOM win and now takes a significant lead. As Blackpool approached, he and Nicholas Gustafsson dropped out, and the rest were finally caught as well. Team Sky and Endura ripped a 3.5-minute gap into the peloton and brought the race onto the promenade for the big sprinters finale.
But now look at this then, head to head as they look for the line. It's Australia on the left, but on the line it is Cavendish again. Mark Cavendish takes it right on the line.
Cavendish leads courtesy of his time bonus at the end. 6 seconds his advantage over Lee Howard. 14 seconds then to Van Poppel and Luke Rowe in 4th and 5th. Sepp van Marke is at 26 seconds in 8th place.
Resplendent in the IG Gold jersey. Any plans on trying to keep this all the way to the end?
We'll see what we can do, see if we can control it. The guys are up for controlling it. It's not easy, but I'm feeling better every day. We'd like to win it for the team. We've got other GC goals, and I'd kind of like to wear the World's jersey, you know, before I have to give it back. But we'll see what happens.
Mark feels pretty confident he can win this race if we can control it. So, you know, that's the goal. We'll try and win again with Mark today, but we've still got a few there in the wings, like myself and Luke. So, yeah, just keep doing what we've been doing, really.
Well, I'm delighted to say that those howling gale force winds that nearly whipped us off the promenade and straight into the Irish Sea have completely abated, and the sun is, well, trying to peep out here in Stoke-on-Trent. Matt, that stage yesterday, seen as a whole from Team Sky, was probably their most complete performance to date, wasn't it?
It certainly was. You obviously had the breakaway that took several minutes, and then obviously Team Sky joined Orica to bring the break back. But what they then did was put the entire race in the gutter in a really difficult crosswind section and blew the race apart, basically. And obviously then took Mark Cavendish back onto the prom, led out with only 25 riders left, and they're the only guys that could hold the wheels to set up Mark for another spectacular stage win.
And it's not easy to do. It's only a 6-man team, unlike, you know, if you've been watching the Tour de France, they have 9 men, so it's slightly different. But within those 6 men, they have clearly defined roles, don't they?
Yeah, of course they do. You've got obviously Bernie Eisel will look after Mark Cavendish. He's his wingman and has been for, I think, the entire time Mark's career since he was back in Telecom. Then obviously you've got young Luke Rowe, who's already worn the jersey. He'll be there just to help out when he can, but obviously ends up in the golden jersey this year. And then of course you've got Jez Hunt, Christian Knees. They're the big motors, the engines of the team. They're the kind of guys that you see on the front day in, day out, just driving the bunch along. Then of course you've got the 2 superstars. You've got Cav and you've got Bradley. So yeah, a really, really deep, well-rounded team. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well that's demystified something for us, and here's another bit of demystification. You may have noticed that there is a blue jersey in the middle of the peloton. It's the points jersey, and if you don't fully understand what that's all about, well, this might help. United Healthcare's Boy Van Poppel has been leading this classification since the beginning of stage 2, although he did loan it out temporarily to Russ Downing on the day that he took the race lead. Well, this gentleman is Damien Duggan, who's paying for the jersey. Actually, he's the sponsor, so you should understand it. What is the points competition all about?
Yeah, essentially it's quite straightforward, really. It's for the most consistent rider, stage riders every day. Basically, the riders first through the 15th accumulate points, so the first rider home gets 15 points, and obviously the 15th rider gets 1 point. So the most consistent riders over the course of the event, wins the overall points jersey. So you're being rewarded for being there or thereabouts every single day, and that's harder than it sounds, isn't it, to be on it every day and placing highly? Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you know, it's so competitive. There's always, you know, so much tactics involved. People are trying to get out into breaks. I mean, if you can get home ahead of your competitors and keep them out of the top 15, you accumulate, you know, 15 points. So trying to bring your form day in, day out is you know, it's a difficult task for sure. And who's wearing it this morning? It's one of our favourite riders on this year's tours. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Boy Van Poppel is winning ahead, but I mean, Marcus Cavendish is hot on his heels, so yeah, it could go anyway for sure. Good change hands. Let's have a look. Just show us what it looks like. There you go.
It's the 5th year that the revamped Tour of Britain has visited Stoke-on-Trent, always one of the most popular stages for spectators as they line the climbs throughout this stage. The day's final categorised climb up Gun Hill and the ascent up Biddulph Moor should provide an arduous selection process for the day's winner. Since the 17th century, this region has been a centre point for the industrial manufacture of pottery, leading to the city and the larger area becoming affectionately known as the Potteries. For the 5th consecutive year, the Tour of Britain starts and finishes in the city. This year there's a new look route that includes demanding climbs and windswept moorland. Spectator favourite Gun Hill remains part of the course, with a new, slightly flatter finish that could provide an exciting sprint to the line.
We are now over halfway through this year's Tour of Britain here on stage 5. With over 2,000 metres of climbing, this is going to be another hard day in the saddle. Personally speaking, I'd say this is the hardest climb of the stage. However, the elite group of 20 already having been formed at this point last year, the only real action came when Jonathan Tierenlock, now of Endura, launched himself off the front to take maximum points at the King of the Mountains. This year though, the summit comes at 30 kilometres from the finish, so this could provide the perfect launching pad for the strongest riders to make their attacks.
Well, Matt, it's a perennial favourite, isn't it, Stoke to Stoke on the Tour of Britain. What are the characteristics of this stage?
Well, today's stage starts off a little bit flat and then after about 30 to 40 miles goes into the Staffordshire Moorlands and the border of the Peak District. Extremely up and down, twisty, turny, gets very high up midway through the race, and last year we saw the race blow to pieces in the crosswinds rather than on the climbs. The big feature today is going to be Gun Hill, and there's no doubt there's going to be thousands of people there today. Could be decisive, but I think then there's about 25 miles to go from that point. Again, very, very undulating until we get onto the outskirts of the Potteries, but I think it will probably come back together for a bunch sprint today.
OK, and the finish traditionally has been this steep uphill ramp into Hanley, but it's been slightly reconfigured, hasn't it?
Yeah, it still reaches the same elevation, but it's not quite as steep, and we're going to have a far wider finish. So hopefully it'll be a bit more of a spectacle for the spectators there today.
OK, one for Mark Cavendish then? Is he going to win?
Yes, I think he is.
Let's find out, shall we? Rob Hales and Hugh Porter are your commentators.
Stage 5 of the Tour of Britain will take the riders from Trentham Gardens through to Hanley in Stoke-on-Trent. A distance of 147 kilometres and one of the toughest stages. They've always proved to be real counters in the history of this race. Bradley Wiggins, well, just rolling away at the front there with Mark Cavendish in the IG Markets gold jersey. Ahead of them, well, a tough test. Will Cavendish be able to keep the lead?
Extremely difficult stage we've got here in Stoke. Bradley Wiggins there, riding alongside his team leader, Mark Cavendish, in that IG gold jersey.
The flags are out in support of Mark Cavendish. Christian House, leader in the King of the Mountains, and right alongside him, Pete Williams, leader in the Yodel Sprint competition. Well, he's a shot of the tail of the peloton. Already the speed is very high, as you can see. Oh, there's a crash! Now, who's gone? Oh, several riders have hit the deck, and that's one of the members of the Liquigas team. That's Borghini.
Yeah, Borghini from Liquigas down, and Brett Lancaster there also on the floor, facing backwards, actually. Several riders gone down. Borghini looks in all sorts of trouble.
And also Brett Lancaster, the Australian. Well, look at that, the tyre absolutely destroyed. This is the rider from Orica Greenedge, Brett Lancaster, and it looks as though he's in serious trouble, and Borghini.
Yeah, both these riders in no hurry to get back up.
Well, look at this here, Cavendish getting some attention to his shoe.
Yeah, obviously a buckle broken there, and the mechanic just putting some insulating tape on there just to keep his foot in that shoe nice and securely.
Meanwhile, the boss of the peloton, Bradley Wiggins, says, "Thank you very much, boys. Cav's back. Now let's start racing." Well, they're in the streets of Stone, 7 kilometres covered, and how strange to see the whole peloton together. Normally there's a break. And it is 1 kilometre to go, so look for the riders that are figuring here in this competition. Remember, Peter Williams of Node 4 Giordano is leading with 27 points. He's got a handsome margin, but the long, thin, sinuous line is there, which tells me that the speed really is on at the front.
Yep, these riders all trying to line up and set themselves up for this. Not only the points on the line, but also 3, 2 and 1 seconds for the first 3 places.
And how vital are they going to be? Pete Williams is down there in 3rd place. There he is, taking the lead out off the 2 riders from Sky.
Bernie Eisel trying to set Luke Rowe up for this points, as I can see Russell Downing as well getting in the mix there for Enduro Racing.
Rowe's 4th overall at 14 seconds, so every second you can grab is vital in this competition. Keep an eye out for any other intruders. Can't see a sign of Mark Cavendish. There he is, about 8 back in the line, and the speed really is high here now as they're approaching the line. It's going to be some sprint, and it's still Sky leading out.
An awful long lead out here for Bernie Eisel. We can see the speed that he's going as he drops off Luke Rowe.
And Rowe now has the head of the contest, looking to try and get 3 vital seconds here. Here comes the challenge then from Lee Howard of Orica Green Edge. Howard takes it on the line by a scant margin ahead of Luke Rowe, and that means he's got a 3-second bonus there. He started the day 6 seconds behind Cavendish. Now he's only 3 behind. Take a look at this then, Rob.
Well, that was an awful long sprint there that Luke Rowe had to make. But Lee Howard, he was the one, he had the power, he got by.
Well, vital seconds there. How important are they going to be as the rest of this stage begins to unfold? Confirmation then of the result. Howard takes the 3 seconds, Rowe gets the 2, Downing the 1. Williams didn't get any time, doesn't matter, but he got a very useful point, which means he's increased his lead in the competition. Welcome back, and we're now approaching the glorious Cannock Chase and the first climb of the day, Glacial Boulder, a 2nd cat ascent. 0.6 to the winner, down to 1 for 6th, and a little group slipping away.
Yeah, we've got 7 riders going clear and 1 coming across. That's Enduro Racing coming across extremely quick. That looks like Paul Voss from here.
So 8 riders assembling, ready for the start of this first climb. And on the left of our screen there in the bright green and blue, Basso, but there's an attack forming here at the front as we're now on the foot slopes of the climb.
And we've got one of the riders here trying to go off the front, using those motorbikes in front of him to maximum effect.
Well, the length of this ascent is 1 mile, so you need to time your effort well, and this group are beginning to splinter, and this is due to the pressure being applied by the rider escaping.
And the crowds are starting to form at the bottom of the climb. I'm sure there's only going to be more people at the top here seeing the action.
So who's going to grab the points over the top as the break tries to distance itself from the peloton? This is the first key move then of the stage. Remember, they fled into stone all together when they tackled the first Yodel sprint. Now that it's Basso turning the screw, chasing down the leader.
Rally rider here just looking over his shoulder, checking where he is, how far he's got ahead of the riders behind him, and it is Basso who's coming across.
Well, there's the group, and Basso now is being given a helping hand on the front as they try to limit the gains of the man that's taken flight.
And just looking on the back there, one of the young GB riders there in the red, white and blue. Good move by him. We haven't seen much of them all week, but they're starting to push forward now.
Yeah, it's encouraging, isn't it, to see the young riders representing Great Britain having a go, getting involved in the mix, and obviously reflecting that they are not afraid of reputations. But meanwhile, the lone leader continues here, and he's got quite a good advantage.
He has. Looks a little bit like Liam Holohan from here. But as I've said before, the crowd's really starting to pick up now as the sun casts shadows underneath these riders as they go up this climb here, this 2nd category climb.
Yep, this climb of Glacial Boulder at the moment causing a few problems with the group. Now then, look at this, they're starting to come together here, and it's Team NetApp, the rider from Team NetApp, that's closing up on the leader, and that looks like the style of Jan Barta to me. So Barta is beginning to close down on the leader now, and right in his wheel then is the Italian superstar, and that is Basso.
And is that on the right hand side in the green and white jersey? That's Christian House. Christian House, the leader of the Skoda King of the Mountains jersey, pushing himself up to the front, trying to get points and score here.
Yep, House is coming through. Well, his nearest challenger, Urtason's not in the group, but here's the attack for the points at the top. It's Barta. Barta's coming up to the line, and there's an attack on the right then from the Escadai rider, and he nearly got pushed into the crowd there, actually, and he gets 2nd over the line, but it was a victory for Jan Barta. So Barta, the man that finished 3rd overall in the race last year, at the top of the climb first. 6 points for him, but more importantly, Christian House gets 4, and that's increased his lead in the stranglehold in the King of the Mountains competition. Look at that glorious shot. Cannock Chase at his best.
And here we can see a lot more riders coming up over the top of the climb, and this small group that was off the front is starting to build. A lot more riders coming back together.
Well, it's not a technical descent, so the race pattern could change continually.
On the descent from Cannock Chase, 3 riders, Ivan Basso of Liquigas, Bernie Sulzberger of Team Rally and Bartosz Huzarski of NetApp, broke clear from the Sky-driven peloton and established a lead of 1:17, approaching the second sprint of the day at Utoxeter. Basso taking maximum points in front of Huzarski and Sulzberger. Yodel sprint leader Pete Williams led the peloton over the line for the final point available. Before the last intermediate sprint, there was another crash in the peloton. A touch of wheels brought down several riders. Longland Morton, Peter Hawkins and Rico Rogers were all affected, but the big casualty, endurers Russell Downing. The 3 leaders, unaware of the chaos behind, rode through the Rochester sprint, Huzarski taking the 5 points for first over the line, closely followed by Sulzberger and Basso. Sky's Bernie Eisel took the final point. By now, a battle-scarred Russ Downing was receiving medical and mechanical assistance and rejoined the race. As the leaders raced onto the second climb of the day at Oakmoor, Huzarski decided he'd had enough and sat up, leaving Sulzberger and Basso to contest the Category 2 climb. Join us after the break.
Welcome back to stage 5 of the Tour of Britain, and the 2 leaders are now nearing the start of the second uphill test of the day, and that is the climb of Oakmoor Moorside, and it's Basso from Liquigas and from Rally Sulzberger.
And these 2 riders just gone past the sign there for Brltain Towers, and I think it's certainly going to be a roller coaster ride for all of these riders on their way into the finish here in Stoke-on-Trent.
Good crowds have built up here on the long climb, and Basso looking very keen to get on with this, as both riders are forced to come out of the saddle, which underlines the steepness of the hill.
Yeah, these climbs not really long enough for somebody like Basso, but he is one of the strongest here, one of the climbers, as we go back to Team Sky here on the front of the peloton, trying to control, trying to bring this break back for their man, Mark Cavendish.
And he looked reasonably comfortable there, right on the extreme left of our screens in that IG Markets gold jersey. But Basso drops back into the seat here and settles down to tapping the rhythm out.
Yeah, certainly more used to big Alpine and Pyrenean passes is Ivan Basso, but these climbs here not giving him too much trouble.
3 kilometres long then, so you've got to measure your effort here. And this is the kind of climb where you can settle down to a nice rhythm.
Plenty of crowd out here yet again, and a dog trying to get in on the action as well.
Well, we don't want any dogs sprinting across the road. We had 1 or 2 of those in the Tour de France, and riders were falling, and it cost them dearly. Now then, trouble at the back for 1 or 2 of the competitors here. Orica Greenedge looking to be in a little bit of trouble as we get back to the leaders, and Basso looking back to Sulzberger. What will he be saying there then, Rob?
Well, I think he just wants a steady tempo. Neither of these riders concerned really with the points at the top of this climb. They're just trying to hold a steady pace and try and stay away from the chasing riders behind them.
Commissaire coming up to have a chat to them, probably telling them what their advantage is as they come up to this left-hander. And just look at the crowds. Monumental support for the Tour of Britain this year, and of course they all want to see Wiggins and Cavendish, so they'll have to wait for the arrival then of the next group. But look here now, we are coming up to the line, and it's a Rally GAC rider Sulzberger that crosses it first. Now Basso just settling down into the pace of the man ahead, and they're going to start to work consistently.
Big crosswinds on the top of this climb, very open, not a lot of shelter for them. That could create a little bit of damage for this group further back, trying to bring these 2 guys back.
So it's an Italian and an Australian at the moment that are trying to keep clear from the peloton. There's 1 more big climb to come, and that's the ascent of Gun Hill, which is a first category affair, and that always causes a lot of trouble in the main peloton. And just ahead of the peloton is still the rider that's dropped off the break, and that's Huzarski. So he's the 3rd man on the road as they come up to this left-hander. You can see Cavendish in the wheels there, so at the moment he's riding quite strongly. Look at this, here's an attack, Big attack here then off the front, and this looks like Liam Holohan, but on the left there's a rider having a crack as well from Eskadai, and this could well be Urtasun, and if that is Urtasun, he will have clawed back 3 points on Christian House in the King of the Mountains. Yes, there it is. Urtasun gets 3 useful points. You're looking at the lone leader here on stage 5 of the Tour of Britain. It's Ivan Basso. Basso has just left his breakaway companion, Bernie Sulzberger. He's got 50 kilometres ahead of him, and he's 1 minute 44 ahead of the main peloton. Let me just tell you, today's stage has been encrusted with action. Let me just take a look here. Further back, this is when he was with Sulzberger about 3 kilometres ago, and Sulzberger really has been struggling to stay with the Italian on the climbs. He's obviously not as fast as the talented rider from Liquigas.
No, the Liquigas rider there, Ivan Basso, one of the strongest climbers in the world. And for Sulzberger, there's just no chance on these roads. Extremely difficult roads here.
There's been a lot of action today. We had the first sprint in stone after 7 kilometres. Lee Howard, the Australian on the Orica Green Edge, was first there, and he picked up a very useful 3-second bonus. And what it means is that 3-second bonus is he's cut his deficit down on Mark Cavendish, who's the race leader, to just 3 seconds. We got on to sprint 2, and then that was in Utoxeter, and Basso was first there because obviously the breakaway was clear. Well, there we are. The rider has been caught, and a little group forming here, and we've got a rider in this group from Orica Green Edge.
Yep, 5 riders now starting to go clear. All sorts of damage being done back in the peloton. It looks like Enduro Racing, 2 riders there just on the front, I think, looking after their interests of their team leader, Jonathan Turner-Lock. He's certainly going to be looking at getting up there in the general classification over the next few days, especially.
This is the kind of terrain that will suit Jonathan Turner-Lock, the King of the Mountains winner in the Tour last year. He finished 5th overall, and he's ridden very cleverly so far, and this kind of terrain has no problems. Now then, Mark Cavendish doesn't look particularly happy at all here. So the overall race leader, Mark Cavendish, there is actually a problem, and he's got a teammate waiting for him, so the terrain is certainly taking its toll here on the world champion.
Look at the damage that's being done in this peloton.
It's been done by Team Enduro as well, Rob, so they've got Sky on the back foot, and this is probably for the first time in the Tour.
It is. Certainly not happy, and I think Cavendish here, he's just going to be riding himself through to try and get himself to the finish of this stage in best shape he can. This is extremely difficult, but this is working to the favour also of Basso, because it means that if he does get brought back, which is more than likely, it will only be a smaller group that's doing it.
Yeah, that was Krupas actually that was with them. Krupas from the team of Orica Green Edge, and he's actually the lowest placed in their team. Well, he's well down at 14.55, so he's suffering a bit at the back. Now then, they're on to the open moorlands here. This is really tough racing country, and remember, ahead of them they've got the ascent of Gun Hill. Just look at the panoramic aerial view there, and that gives us an ideal opportunity to clarify the situation. You can see the front group going away here, and there's a lot of damage being done, Rob.
There is similar sights to we saw yesterday on the run into Blackpool, where it was Bradley Wiggins doing the damage on the flatlands and the crosswind, but here it looks like it's Enduro Racing doing all the damage, and the peloton has split into 2, and it's around about 10-second lead at the moment from the front group to this second group that we're seeing here. Liquigas just going through. These riders will all be trying to scrabble for position, as we see Bradley Wiggins here just at the back of that group.
Right alongside him is Magnus Backstedt, and I think Wiggins is giving the old thumb back to say, look, Mark Cavendish has lost contact, and I think the rider, his teammate ahead, has probably said, well, what do you think we should do? And I think they've got a problem. They are now going to have to work out, shall we wait for our leader? And if we do, if he's lost contact here, surely he won't be able to cope with Gun Hill. So Basso, with that nice style of his, you can see the shoulders just working, and he's turning on a very, very impressive display. So this is a very, very interesting development here in the Tour of Britain, as we are 2/3 of the way through stage 5. Bradley Wiggins really had a character at the back of the group, but he is concerned obviously about Mark Cavendish. Now is Bradley going to drop back and pace Cavendish up himself?
Just looking at Peter Williams there from the Yeovil Sprints jersey, moving himself up there from right to left, scrabbling for the wheels. This certainly isn't the kind of terrain that he likes, nor does Magnus Backstead here, just ahead of Bradley Wiggins. Team UK Youth just starting to pedal squares now on this climb.
And this isn't the ascent of Gun Hill, so it just flags up how tough the roads are here, and that tells you, look at that, the way it ramps up, and that foreshortens the advantage. Look at this, the group trying to come across then to Basso, and Basso is obviously concerned now, and it looks very much as though he's going to get company before they get onto the ascent of Gun Hill. What a sensational race we've got here today. We always get brilliant action in the Stoke stage, and this of course is exactly what we're getting again. Now then, what's going on here, Rob?
Well, he's just gone back to Servais Knaven, the team director there for Team Sky, just finding out exactly what's going on. Obviously, as we've mentioned, Wiggins doesn't have race radio, so he's got to go back and get the information relayed from the car.
Well, Basso continues at the front here, 42 kilometres to go, and the wind just starting to lift as you look at the trees being buffeted on the right, and of course this is going to create havoc from behind. Echelons are going to start to form, so this is a brilliant day of racing. This is what stage race riding is all about. Bradley Wiggins, you see, only 36 seconds back off the overall lead in 17th spot, but he's still concerned. I think he's going to ask Cav now, what is the situation here, Cav? And maybe he will then decide to carry on. Is that Christian House there, the leader of the King of the Mountains? I think Christian House is in this group as well.
It is also struggling, which shows how hard these roads are, but let's face it, Christian House has had an awfully tough stage race up to now. He's been away almost every day.
As the road lips up again here, Basso looks back. Here comes the company, and this is a very select group. Jonathan Tiernan-Locke is in this group.
He's the man here in the middle of our shot in the black and green. Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, he's the man. He's got Paul Voss, the German, in his wheel, teammate.
12th at 27 seconds, Locke. This is the moment for him. This could well be the defining moment when Locke decides he's going to make a serious bid for the overall lead. There is the leading group.
Well, we're down to about 17, 18 riders now in this front group. Ivan Basso, he's been out clear.
Well, he seems happy, doesn't he? Well, it's just like a stroll in the park for Wiggo, isn't it? Now that he's still looking back.
He's waiting for his team leader, Mark Cavendish. Gone back to look after him.
Didn't quite catch what he said there. Well, at the top of the programme, in the interview, Mark Cavendish actually said he preferred to wear his World Championship jersey and enjoy the last few days before he goes to defend it. Now, here we are. Now, what are they saying? So Bradley Wiggins having a chat with Mark Cavendish. And I'd love to know what the decision is going to be here. And the front group is now beginning to split. 20 riders are clear, and they've got about 25 seconds advantage, and they are really getting down to it. This is a serious day's racing.
Garmin Sharp really starting to apply the pressure now.
Okay, this is the back group at 4:16. The race has been blown to bits, totally, absolutely blown to bits. This is real tough bike racing. But there we are, the start of the final climb of the day, the ascent of Gun Hill. First category climb, and it really is a tester. So there are points available for the first 10 over the top here. And I can tell you, they've covered 695 kilometres so far, and they've climbed 5,091 metres. And that's just above the height of Mont Blanc, which is 4,810 metres. So that gives you an idea of just how hard this race is.
Well, that certainly puts it into perspective as we see Mark Cavendish here on the right-hand side, nearly 5 minutes back now as the French SAL team start to take up and apply the pressure.
Yep, SAL Association on the front as well, and I tell you, they are full of riding today. Got riders in this group. And again, it begins to fracture. Jonathan Tiernan-Lock, look at him in third position here from Endura. He makes it look so easy, doesn't he? He just sits there tapping along, and then the slight easing of the legs as he gets out of the saddle. But this is his terrain, a former mountain bike rider from down in the Devon area. He looks back to see if there's anybody there. 30 kilometres to go. This is a perfect springboard for the final selection of the day.
You can see the crowd. It's not a long climb, only 1.3 miles, 2.2k, but it is steep.
Very
we can
steep.
See the wind just coming again from the left-hand side, but the crowd's out in their hundreds.
Jonathan Tiernan-Lock then decides he's going to go to the head of the contest here. 27 seconds behind overall in 12th position, and now he really does look good. He danced on the pedals on the major climbs in the Tour of Britain 12 months ago, which saw him take the King of the Mountains and finish 5th overall, and he's gone on to improve on that ride by underlining some superb performances earlier this season, and now he's reflecting the class that we've said he's got. 5 minutes and 8 seconds now back to the group that contains Mark Cavendish.
Massive amount of damage done on this gun hill here. 30 kilometres to go now to the finish here in Stoke. How many riders are going to come in together? Well, it's certainly not going to come down to a bunch sprint, that is for sure.
The overall general classification completely turned upside down here, and the key players overnight, that's Mark Cavendish and Lee Howard at the moment, are being blown totally away. But the man that's dominating it here is Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. He's getting a huge ovation as he goes over the top of Gun Hill. First then Jonathan Tiernan-Lock, he gets 10 points, but he's not bothered about that. He's more interested in trying to take the overall. Now he's going to settle down for the 30 kilometres that is between him and the finishing line. He'll wait for company, and then they'll start to get together and work consistently. But he really does look good, Rob.
He does, and we can see the Sky Rider there, Christian Knies. He's starting to take up that strain, take up the pressure and try and ride this group back. This splinter group that's gone off the front. He really does need to stay up there. Team Sky have lost everything else today. He is their only card to play. Paul Voss yet again on the front as we go past the crowds here. Out again, the schools let out of lessons to see this race pass through.
There's a crash, they've overcooked the corner there. Two riders have gone down. One is Marc Demar. Marc Demar at the back, and he's got one of the riders with him from Saint-Chasson, and he's not very happy. He just pushed the bike away. So that's two riders then, after all that hard work, are now out of it. So they've got a lot of work to do to try and get back up. That looks like Galland to me.
It's Galland, and the way he's looking, it's collarbone. Yep, he's saying casse. Le clavicle, you can see the riders have just gone on. It was actually looked like the Enduro racing rider Paul Voss, who went straight on through the crowd, and a couple of riders followed him. All the riders looking at each other, attack after attack. This is a big group, so they're not going to be happy to work together.
Everybody wants to win this. They're looking for the opportunity to give the rest of the group the slip. There's the big rangy fella of Sepp van Mark in second position. Remember, Sepp van Mark was the man that tried to win that stage into Dumfries. Lee Howard also in this group. Now then, they ease back again. It's a little bit like a tactic on the track, this, isn't it? Somebody jumps away and then the move is checked. It's chess on wheels here. Somebody makes a move and then there's a reaction and the move is cancelled out. Now then, this looks more promising. 7 kilometres to go, and the rider from Garmin-Sharp is being given an opportunity, but a reaction immediately then from the rider from Saint-Chasson as he's bringing them back together.
Yep, the rider here, Garmin-Sharp, really doing some damage, but everybody in the wheels, they're not letting anybody go clear just yet.
Marc Demar having a go. Well, he was on the deck, wasn't he? So he's done well to bridge and get back to the group, and it's Marc Demar trying to go away.
He has, and Paul Voss as well, he's back there, so there must have been a little bit of a rest with the riders at front, and they've allowed these riders who went off on that right-hander to come back and get back into contention.
Mark DeMar trying to go away here now then. There's no problem. He wouldn't affect the overall situation because he's 78th at 12 minutes and 48 seconds. So this is a great opportunity for the rider clear now. Mark DeMar looking very strong here as he tries to distance himself from the breakaway. He's riding for the United Healthcare. Well, it is a very, very brave effort here as this spellbinding action continues. It's been a phenomenal stage, encrusted with drama and breaks that have developed and evaporated. It's such an effort by DeMar, isn't it? 3.5 kilometres to go. There's not a considered chase from behind. They're looking at each other, which could play into the hands of the leader. And they've eased back fractionally. He looks under his arm and he knows there's a great chance here of him nailing this stage victory. Endura come to the front once again. They don't really need to close him down because, as you just said, he's not a threat at all to the overall lead.
No, but Paul Voss tirelessly working on the front, doing the best that he can for his teammate and his team leader, Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. Basso again on the front as well with him.
Tell you what, there's a great chance that this rider from United Healthcare could nail this, Rob. He's going really well. Very, very powerful indeed.
Yeah, we've got Tiernan-Lock, Haas in fourth for Garmin Sharp. Knies,
there's going to be
the lonely Sky Rider as we get to 3 kilometres to go now. Paul Voss on the front, pulling hard.
Second wheel, Basso. Third wheel, Jonathan Tiernan-Lock as we come back to the leader. 11 seconds, the window of advantage now for Mark DeMar of United Healthcare. This is beginning to look very good for him.
Extremely good, riding hard. He went down, let's face it, he was on the floor only a few kilometres to go. We had a right-hand bend where a few of the guys came off. But he got himself back up, back to this group and straight through it and off the front.
I must admit it transcends belief, this, but he really is battling on. Brave effort, scraping himself up off the deck and then jumping clear of the group. Well, can he do it? It's a monumental effort by him. He's certainly amplifying his intentions to lift his arms with the victory salute. He's absolutely fired up here, totally inspired, attacking the closing kilometres here with unbridled passion. The leader, Mark DeMar, can he win the stage?
Well, we can see here his teammate Boy Van Poppel. He's able to sit in the wheels. He's not having to do anything.
Less than 2 kilometres to go now. Well, come on, you almost want to cheer him on, don't you, Mark DeMar? It's such a brave effort. Now, here comes an effort off the front of the main field by the two riders from Endura. They're beginning to raise the tempo a little bit. That's Voss on the front and Tiernan-Lock in second position. They can't pull this man back. It's gone up. It's 15 seconds now. So he's totally inspired, driven on here. He's amplified his intentions to the rest. And I tell you what, it's looking like it's going to pay off.
Well, not far now. Within the next 2 minutes, we're going to find out who it is who's going to take this stage. At the moment, it looks like Mark DeMar here, the national champion from Carousel, riding for United Healthcare, is going to take that victory. But he's going to have to keep doing what he's doing. He needs to keep pressing on. Don't look behind you, just keep going.
I think he deserves the victory, this brave effort. It should pay off. I think he's going to conquer the opposition here. He's tamed them, and it looks very much to me as he's going to be the man that'll triumph. What an effort by him. Stellar performance then by the leader here, Mark DeMar of United Healthcare. He will see ahead of him. There it is, the red kite. Now, 1 kilometre to go for the leader, Mark DeMar. Surely they're not going to bridge 18 seconds in 1 kilometre.
How much does this rider have left in his legs? He's going to need an awful lot because the road starts to go uphill in a minute. Here you can see the riders just behind him. 18 seconds is the advantage that Mark DeMar has on these riders, as we see the Enduro rider going out the back now, Voss.
Yeah, Voss has done the job well to help Jonathan Tiernan-Lock, and he has now sat up as the rest of the group now go under the banner. 1 kilometre to go. They are not going to catch Mark DeMar. He's going to be the leader here today. He deserves the victory. He can see ahead of him now the finishing funnel. He really is gulping in the air and gripping those bars, finding every last ounce of energy.
The barriers here he's gone through, the safety barriers that he's certainly going to need as he comes up into the town centre. Here we go, Jonathan Tiernan-Locke on the front of the group, what's left of the peloton.
As we come back to the leader, Mark de Maar. He's now approaching then the final metres of this stage. It racks up again here. There's a little sting in the tail. This is where it ramps up towards the run for the line. Now then, what's he got left? He looks to be pretty strong to me as an attack off the front of the group here to try and catch the leader in the closing stages. I think they're going to run out of distance, and it really would be a shame if he didn't take the stage, because he's been the man of the match in the closing stages. The crowd are loving it. They're giving him maximum support. He looks back anxiously. Mark de Maar now fighting on for the line. He can't come quick enough. Is he going to win the stage here? Stage 5 of the Tour of Britain, right here in Hanley. 147 kilometres of really tough terrain, and he's got it. He's going to raise his arms here. He's already celebrating. Look at this. Mark de Maar gives the victory salute. The rider from United Healthcare wins stage 5 of the Tour of Britain. And here's a sprint for second. It's the Belgian Sepp van Mark riding on the Garmin. Shot him. Oh, it was close. Boy van Poppel points to the air to indicate that he was second, but it looked very much to me like the Belgian hung on to the second spot. Let's have a look at it. Sepp van Mark coming up to the line now. Yes, he finishes second, and Boy van Poppel takes third spot. Well, fortune favours the brave, and it certainly did for Mark de Maar. Celebrations spilling over here, and what a day for United Healthcare. 2 podium positions, first and third. You can't ask for much more than that.
And then, for the people of Stoke, there was a wait. In fact, it was 11 minutes and 45 seconds before a group of riders, including Mark Cavendish and Bradley Wiggins, finally got to the finish line in Stoke. But de Maar it was then, who had time to take out his gilet, straighten his jersey and make it all look good for the sponsors. Big news, perhaps the only news in Curaçao. 16 riders finished in the same time behind him. Sepp van Marke out-sprinting Boy van Poppel in the race for bonus seconds. He gets 6, Van Poppel gets 4. Lee Howard came 5th, with John Tiernan-Locke rolling in 9th place. Lee Howard then regains the lead he first won in Dumfries. The gap is just 7 seconds though to Boy van Poppel. Sepp van Marke lurks dangerously in third at 17 seconds. Christian Knees is Sky's only GC hope now at 24 seconds, the same time as Liquigas's Damiano Caruso and Endura's John Tiernan-Locke. Luke Rowe is Sky's next best man at 6 minutes 28 seconds, 5 seconds better off than Russ Downing, who's missing a fair bit of skin from his backside after today's crash. Ivan Basso's ride did little to alter his position. Mark Cavendish drops to 35th, with his teammate Bradley Wiggins at 41st, 12 minutes and 3 seconds down. One of the biggest wins of his career then for de Maar, who showed why he's not only the road race but also the time trial champion of Curaçao. He took it on with plenty to do.
Some of our guys did this race last year, so we knew what to expect, but it was a nice race. This is real bike racing. I had some bad luck the first few stages and was almost thinking about going back home, but yeah, luckily I stayed in the race and won the stage today.
But it was Lee Howard, who no one had reckoned with. A strong ride in terrain which really didn't suit him, hands him the IG Markets gold jersey for the second time in this race.
I just put myself in the right position and I rode quite an aggressive race, doing a few attacks myself and following some moves, and luckily I had good legs that I could stay with the front today.
Yeah, you didn't seem to have any problems. I mean, are you starting to think now you might be able to defend the jersey?
I was certainly having a few problems up the climbs, but you know, I just hung on over the top. You know, one time I was in the second group, but we managed to get back on.
Well, we might have anticipated drama on that stage, but I don't think in our wildest dreams we would have anticipated quite that much action, Matt. The question on everyone's lips will be, what was Sky playing at? What was Bradley Wiggins playing at?
A very good question. I mean, we know Bradley was in one of the forward groups over the tops, over the moors, that I said back at the start would split because of the crosswinds. And he dropped back to pace Mark back on. That's my only thought. I don't think he actually knew that to the extent the gap was at that particular time.
So maybe he thought it was a minute and it turned out to be 3. Now, the fact that there are no race radios, or team radios rather, do you think that had an influence?
I think it does. I mean, definitely. Obviously, normally team managers would relay time gaps back to riders, but as it is at the moment, riders have got to make a call based on what they can see. And again, because of the nature of the terrain, it's very, very difficult to ascertain time gaps when you've got crosswinds and climbs. So again, it was an interesting thing for Brad to do, but obviously it didn't seem to be the right move. They've only got one guy in the front now. Yeah, they ride for Christian Knees, and he's going to have to do something about young John Tiernan-Locke, because he looked good today, didn't he? Measured and fluent. Yeah, John Tiernan-Lock is really riding well. He looked very, very easy. Even coming across the line today, he looked relaxed, composed. I think we're going to see him really like the afterburners tomorrow on those 2 ascents of Caerphilly Mountain.
Do we underestimate Lee Howard at our peril? Because after all, he got up Gun Hill with him today.
Well, Boy Van Poppel, Lee Howard, all the sprinters, apart from Mark, unfortunately, made it into the front group today, looking extremely strong. So, you know, I don't think Lee Howard's going to relinquish that golden jersey too easily.
No, there will be fireworks tomorrow. I'm pretty sure of that, especially after what we've seen today. Stage 6 tomorrow goes from Welshpool to Caerphilly, over the border in Wales, and we have live coverage from 1:45 p.m. and the highlights at the usual time. See you tomorrow.